I suppose I shall start off with what I believe I'm going to call the bike saga. Now, this was back when exactly 1 year ago, I lived a decent ways away from where I worked, and I didn't have a car yet. So like in one of the last stories, I walked there frequently, but before that, I had a bike. Now, to give you some background on this bike was owned by my mother before me, and she saved up and bought this bike with her babysitting money, to give you an illusion of how old this bike is. Well, but it was a pretty good bike. It still worked. It shifted gears. It had nice, thin, really big wheels. So it would go farther, faster, better, stronger. I think it's something to do with physics. And it was also tall enough for my freakishly long legs, so I could pedal properly. And so I would bike to work very often. Now, if there's one thing about last summer, is that I biked to work every day. And this was still like a half an hour bike ride. But, the bus was worse. I'll probably tell stories about the bus system later. But yeah, so I'm biking to work, and there's up this hill of doom. Actually, there are like 2 hills of doom on this bike ride. Sadness. But yeah, I'm going actually down one huge hill, and then getting ready to cross a bridge, and then up the next hill of doom, when there's a gap in the sidewalk, not like a gap between cement bricks, but a vertical gap between the sidewalk and the bridge, which I could usually jump up and it wouldn't be a problem. It's never been a problem before. So, I'm going down the hill, and I'm just being usual. I've got my headphones on, I'm listening to something while I bike, because I have to have music all the time. It's just a thing. And instead of jumping over, I hit that dead on. It must have just been the exact wrong, because I hit it, and I start to careen forward and sideways, and I'm just like, and if there's one thing you'll find out with me telling these stories, I know how to fall. My mother should have named me Grace, but then that would just be weird. But yeah, so I know how to take a fall, and I knew I was going over, and I knew I was going down, so I just tucked my head, and I just tucked and roll. But I didn't really roll, because I was still on my bike. And so I went careening into this thick, industrial metal railing of this, bridge. And I wanged, this part of my head on it, because if I hadn't ducked my head in time, I would have broken my face on this bridge. So I did that, and then because there's also a concrete divide between the sidewalk and the road, because this is one of the main thoroughfares of the city. The cars go down at all times of the day at all time. So my bike bounces off of that and then crashes back onto me. And so then, since I'm in this position, I hit the concrete elbows first. You can probably, I don't know if you can see it or not, but right around here, I still have some scar tissue. You see, it's a little pink. I have scars. And on my knees too, and other parts of me. Cause like I just continued to like tuck and roll. And then I had so much momentum from going down that hill, and I just slid for another like 3 or 4 feet. Like on the concrete with the bike coming back on top of me. And it was so awful. And to top it all off, this was last summer, and I don't know about anywhere else, but in Iowa, that's undisclosed enough. In Iowa, it was beastly hot. Like this was one of the worst summers that I can remember for heat and stuff. So I would bike in, my like shorts and probably something like this, and then change into my work clothes when I got to work, so I wouldn't be all gross and smelly in my work clothes for my 8-hour work shift. So I'm like scantily clad, not really scantily clad, but I'm like not wearing any protective clothing at all. And of course, I'm not wearing a helmet. Always wear your helmets. Always. There's probably another story somewhere where a helmet saved my life. Many times. I'll think about that later. But yeah, so I've got all sorts of, I'm road rashed, I'm sore, I probably should have gone to the ER immediately. And so I'm lying there on the ground after I've come to a stop, and all I can, because it's also knocked the wind out of me, and all I can do is just like lay there and try and breathe, and then for like 3 minutes I can't, and then all I can do is like sorry I'm still getting over a cold. My roommate brought it back from the hospital. Whore. And you would think, there are times where, good Samaritans still exist in this world. So you would think, like, oh, maybe, like, someone stopped and helped her, checked to see if she was alright. Because, there was an instance, I believe 3 years ago now, I believe, my brother fell in the winter and broke his leg. And, a guy pulled over and helped him and stuff like that. And, like, oh, maybe someone stopped and helped her or whatnot. And it's just like, nope. I'm behind the concrete divide. No one can see me. I'm just lying there on the ground, crying, developing a concussion, and then nobody comes and helps me. But they couldn't see me, so... But yeah, I finally pull myself together, disentangle myself from my bike, stuff like that. And then I'm just regaining myself. I'm checking all my limbs. Because I've broken my feet several times. I've broken my leg. I've broken my arms. Only one arm, actually. Just lots of bad sprains. So, I had to take stock of my faculties. And it's like, okay, I can still move. I can do stuff. Because, like, you're just like, oh, no, if something was broken, if you have a broken bone, unless it's like a small crack in your hand or in your feet, right away. I don't think I've ever experienced anything more painful. Physically. But yeah, so, and then I call work, and I tell them I'm gonna be a bit late. I got in this big bike accident. I'm still coming. And they're like, oh no, do you wanna like leave? And I'm like, no, I'm coming to work. So I walk the rest of the way to work with that bike. I stop and rest a few times because I'm going real slow and I'm hurting. But I'm prepared, and I carry ibuprofen in my purse. So I took some ibuprofen, because I knew and with my water bottle. And then I discovered that I had landed on my lunch and squashed it, rendering my lunch unedible. That was the icing on the cake. So then I get to work, and I walk in the door. I worked then, but I still do, kind of. It's a different store. I worked in a craft store, and a really small one, so there are only like 2 other people working. And I walk in, and my manager's just like, "Do you want to sit down?" And I'm like, "No." Because I knew if I sat down and I stopped, I would stop forever. I would be done. Done. So, and I'm like walking back to the back room, and I'm just like, limping a little bit, and I've got these huge patches of blood and road rash. And then when I get into the bathroom we have a first aid kit there too, so I got, Band-Aids and gauze and tape, so I'm not like a health hazard and stuff. Bloodborne pathogens! But yeah, well, not that I have any that I know of. But yeah. And then I just realized as I'm also undressing that, like, because my ribs were totally really bruised. And I had road rash, like, from here to, like, here. And it was awful, because I couldn't do anything about it, because I, like, go, like, I could only get to here, and then I could really only get to there. So I just left my gross undershirt on and put on my work shirt. I was developing a concussion, so I wasn't really thinking too well. And I get out there, and I just like, did you want to like take a 15 right away? You can go home. And I'm like, I worked so hard to get here. I'm not going home without working. I was also really desperate for money, so I needed to work. But yeah, so I worked through the day like a boss. Except eventually I couldn't run the register because monies. So I just stocked and I ran the cutting counter for the fabric. Because that's kind of like an autopilot thing. After you do it enough, it's just muscle memory. So it's less information processing. So I could just do that. And then the time came to go home. And I wasn't getting on that bike again. So bus it is. And the thing about the bus system in that particular town is that it's horrendous. It's awful. But they do have bike holders on the front of the buses. The trick was to get the bike there by myself in my weakened and concussioned state. That was fun. No, not really. I'm lying about that part. But yeah, so I get home, and then all of my roommates are there, and then I have to regale them with the story, and then go do some proper first aid. That was not fun, because I hadn't disinfected myself yet. That was really intense then. So yeah, I believe I'm gonna cut myself off there. It doesn't end here. There's more. This bike is not yet done with my blood. So I'll see you guys next time, and tune in to Memoirs of a Gretchen. Just remember, it's a true story.